So an environment of 20 agents that averaged over 40 closings apiece last year. And at the recording of this, June 11th, the numbers just came out, number 2 in the nation. I want to welcome everyone to Agent Academy podcast, where we bring on people that are doing the work and letting them unpack how they're doing that work. And I'm here with my great friend, Brandon Brittingham. Brother, it's so great to have you here, man. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah, brother.
So let's just jump right in, man. Let's go into that epic productivity that's taken place in your organization. And what would you say as you're looking at, and also too, you guys are ramping, just going at it while many parts of North America are struggling. Let's go right into productivity, because productivity is a result of good training, good recruiting, great leadership. All those things come together. What's been the key for you in getting a remarkable result like that out of your people?
So I think one of the biggest things is, this is what I learned from you, is it all starts with leadership. I think we make a huge mistake of shiny objects, CRM, leads, this, that, and, it's managing the emotional connection with your people and leading your people in the trenches. It's pretty amazing when you can get everybody on the same page and they buy in. You can't get anyone to buy in if you're not a good leader. And I think that in our business, so many people make this mistake of not learning this skill set. And leadership is so critical. And when I mean leadership, again, this is one of the things that I learned from you, not leading from fear, but leading from love. And that, accountability is the highest form of love, but not coming in and spazzing on people and KPIing them to death, because it just doesn't work. Right. And I think also leadership is, you have to set the example at all times in your relationships, in your physical health, and all those kinds of things, because everybody's watching you. See, the thing is, people don't understand or really think about this. Everybody's watching you all the time. And, when you're in leadership, you can't take a day off. And the day you take a day off, that's the day your team and your crew takes a day off. And I'm not saying you got to work your ass to death, but you and I have been homies for a long time. I know how you run and grind, and, fuck balance. That's not what we do. We take time to decompress, but we're steering the ship. So therefore, when everybody else is taking the day off, we're not. So I think at the end of the day, like, the biggest thing is leadership. Like, if you're not a good leader, I don't give a shit what you buy, what CRM you have, what leads you have, what market you're in. It's not going to matter. You're going to crash eventually. And I had to learn that shit the hard way.
Yes, indeed. How about letting go? Because the one thing is, you're very, very hands-on. And, what's interesting, we'll talk about all the different things that you do, from, I don't know, you're over 1,000 doors in your property management.
Yeah.
And then you're doing some syndication stuff now too, that's evolved.
Yeah.
And you've got things going on with our mutual friend, Ryan Stillman, over in Apex and investment. I mean, just all kinds of things. And you can have a big business and all these types of parts that go with a big business, but many people have a big business, but they can't do all the other things that you're doing because of control issues. And you're a guy that, you've got your finger on the pulse of things. At what point did you, because letting go is the big one, at what point did you recognize you had to let go to expand and do all these amazing things that continue to unfold for you? I mean, I'm probably not even up with all the things you got going on.
Well, I mean, I think number one, thank God I had a good coach in you, to get in my ass and tell me that I can't do it all. Here's the thing, going back to the leadership conversation, if you're a good leader, you create other leaders. Here's the thing, if I'm a good leader, I'm going to create other leaders that are going to tell my ass what to do. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that if we want to get to the point where we sit on top of our businesses and they really run the way that they should, we have to create leadership. And the reality of it is, how good of a leader am I if I can't empower you to go do shit on your own? Right. And I got to micromanage you and I got to be on top of you and all that kind of stuff. That's not leadership, man. That's micromanaging. And that's a boss. That's not a leader. There's a big, big difference. Right.
Yep.
So I think that it's scary, right? It's scary for all of us. We have huge egos, and a lot of times we're handing our baby over to somebody, and it's really, really scary. But you know what? To be honest with you, that's a scarcity mindset. And, you know, people say all the time, which kind of frustrates me sometimes. They're like, oh, I live in abundance. I have an abundant mindset, but I'm not going to give that up, or I'm not going to give that up. You know what I mean? And it's like, but that's a scarcity mindset, right? So if you live in abundance, like the Ed Milet said this the other day at MDM, that stuck with me. Like, if you're a leader, your dreams have to be so big that everybody else's can fit inside, right? And if I'm a leader, I've got to make other leaders and take people with me, right? So when I started thinking like, you know, I got to grow. And here's the other thing, John, you know this, right? Because you hit a wall and you understood that you had to get people to help you grow, right? The thing is, if I said to you, I think there's 168 hours in a week, 160, something like that. If I called you tomorrow, John, and I said, hey, John, it's your last week left. You got 1 week. You got 168 hours. I want to buy 10 hours from you. You would say, fuck no, because it's priceless. So the thing is, when you bring another leader in your organization, you buy time back. And if you look at it in increments of, I only have 168 hours left, you're buying your fucking time back.
Yeah.
And your time is priceless. So the thing is, people get like just caught up in all this shit. I want to do all this shit. I can do this. I can do that. And then what happens is we get in the middle of it and you're not happy because you're like, holy fucking shit, I'm in the middle of 700 things. And the most priceless commodity we all have is time. You create leaders that can come with you. They can help you buy your time back. It's fucking priceless, man.
Yeah. Talk about your big giveaway. Giveaway meaning giveaway is saying no to things so you can say yes to other things. And the hiring, and let's go through this progression. Charlene, bringing her on. Talk about that. When did that take place? And what did you have to let go of? Because you're very hands-on relationship. I mean, you're an order taker. This is by no means, let me give it context. You're an order taker from the standpoint of your relationships in that community, your contribution to that community, truly, not just talking about it. And people just know, I'm thinking real estate, I'm grabbing you. And so they've got these deep emotional connections. Then you bring on Charlene. Talk about that hire and what that did for you, because then there was a bigger hire that was big dollars and all kinds of things that happened after that. But you had to do this first one with her.
Yeah. So take a step back on that, because I get this question a lot. Like, people are like, well, I don't know who to hire or how to do it, or, you know, whatever. So the thing is, here's what I did. When I hired Charlene, who's like my right hand, I got super clear on what do I want. And people lack clarity. That's another thing that I learned from you, is like, you got to get crystal clear. Like, people are like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's like, yeah, what does that mean? Like, get crystal clear, right? So when I hired Charlene, I wrote the job description that she worked for somebody else. I actually wrote the job description based on her avatar. The job description was her, right? So I put that out there, and she called me and she was like, hey, this description like fits who I am. Would you consider hiring me? And I was like, dude, I didn't even ask because I didn't think you were hireable, right? So number one, here's a lesson for everybody that runs teams and companies and you're growing. Who's in your market that you want to get from somebody else? Like, your job description should be based on that person. And you put that shit out into the world, to that energy, and then you never know what happens. And then I literally overnight tripled my business like that.
And that created more problems, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know, talk about this one, because very very few people do this. I mean, there's many people with big businesses that don't even have this role. Talk about this. They have a financial person, but talk about the big step where you went to CFO. Not only that position, but stroked a big check to make that happen.
Yeah. So
I remember you calling me before. This is
yeah.
it, man. But dude, I mean, do you know how expensive this is? I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, it's kind of one of the things that was a turning point and a pivot for us. Like ridiculous. We went from, 500-ish transactions to 1,000, right? Or 900 and some change. But when you add in all the investments and all that shit, we're well over 1,000, right? Just because not everything touches the market, but we were kind of treading towards, we're in a lot of different ancillary companies. We invest a lot in real estate. We do a lot of development, construction. And I was just like, dude, like, it's just so like, I'm running from behind. I'm looking at P&Ls, 30 days past when I should be looking at them. And we just were getting too big. So same thing. I wrote the job description of the CFO that I wanted based on my current CPA. And I hired a headhunting company to hire a CPA or a CFO for me, right? And
so you stroked the checks, and I want people here. You stroked a big check for the headhunting company, first off.
Well, I was getting ready to. So I sent the bill to her, to Sarah, who paid all my bills at the time. And so anything, because she was a great CPA. So anything that was like out of the ordinary, she would like hammer me on it. Why are you spending this money? Why are you doing this? What's it for? So what happened was I sent her this and she said, this is what you're paying this much money to hire somebody. Who are you hiring? I said, a CFO. And she said, why didn't you ask me? It's like, you'd never leave. And then she's like, well, you never asked. And okay, that's funny. So she says, all right, if you can, give me 24 hours before I send this bill off. And I was like, it's kind of weird, but okay. So the next day, she texted me and my partner, Rich, at like 7 a.m, what she never did, and she's never done in her life. She said, I need to come talk to you guys, and it's important. So I text Rich and I said, it's one of two things. She's leaving or we're getting audited. So hopefully it's the good one. So she came in and, we talked about an hour. The good thing is she knew all of our financials. She knew everything. She didn't necessarily know how all the pieces work together, but she had a good overview. So we got through it and she's like, yeah, I'd love to come work with you guys, which was flattering. But then she hit us with the number and I was like, God damn. And in retrospect, the amount of money she saved us and helped us grow, I wish I would have done it 2 years sooner, honestly. And I mean, I was scared to death, but the reality of it is, if you want to grow to like unreal levels, you have to get people that are better than you at certain tasks. And she's certainly way better than us for a lot of things. And the cool thing is too, she's usually on the opposite spectrum of where I am on making a decision, because she has a very, very different mindset and she's not scared to push back or disagree with me, which is what I needed. So, I mean, it's been one of the best hires I've ever made.
Well, let me expand on it too, because I think that anyone that's listening and, you've been on the biggest stages that you can find in the real estate industry, and your credibility and authority in the marketplace. People know who you are and what you associate with, and they see all these big things happening. What I'd like to point out from my perspective and knowing is that that role, though, because many team leaders at your level, they get bored. Hear it all the time. I'm bored and they want to do more, but they can't get away. Well, you brought something to help you grow your business, right? And optimize the business. But now she is another tentacle you put out there as you're extending out, whether it's people that are investing or some of the courses that you're doing, the coaching company that you have now too. This resources within your organization can now extend out, allow you to do more outside of the business.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is I'm a huge advocate of like you got to invest your money, like just you just do. Especially, they just came out and said inflation's the highest it's ever been. So another thing is we've got a whole nother brain to look at something and say this makes sense or it doesn't. And then the other side of that is we raised a bunch of money to deploy into real estate through a syndication fund. And she was able to basically run that entire show for me. So it gave us capacity. And then, stupid stuff like that you don't think about as a team leader, or as a broker, like my commission's wrong on this check, or this is wrong, or that's wrong, or EMD's missing, or whatever, which was stuff that my sales manager or me or somebody was always getting tied into. Or, how many times have we heard this one in this business? Shit, man, I got to pay my taxes, right? And I've spent all my money. Do you know what I mean? And so just having her to be ahead of all that shit and just making sure that she's staying on course financially for us it's a peace of mind that I never had before, man. It's unreal.
Right, right. So we've talked about those two who are critical moves that you made. Talk about some of the other key roles in your business. Again, that supports this transaction count that will continue to grow and the productivity. What are some of the other key positions in your organization as far as on your leadership team is concerned?
So here's one big thing again that I learned from you that we implemented. We created a subset of leaders within our organization. And then this has been just insane. So I got a huge building. You've been to it before.
Yep.
And so I've got the rooms, we painted them all different colors. And every room has a team leader, right? So they're responsible for the agents of their room. So then we bring new agents in, that agent gets assigned a mentor in that room, right? So that mentor is responsible for all the agents. They're responsible for onboarding, training, helping them with their deals, helping them with their questions, those kinds of things. So here's the cool thing about that. As we've continued to grow, you've had people step up and say, I want to be a team leader. What do I got to do? Right? You've had somebody in that room say, I want to contribute. How can I contribute? Right. So now we've got six, we're getting ready to have 7 that basically oversee all the agents. So that was one of the things that I was struggling with. It was like, I had to be in the middle of everything, or my sales manager or my team lead, whatever. And then it was like, no, let's empower. If we truly want to be good at leadership, we got to empower other leaders. So we empowered other leaders, and then they started running the team because, as you know, like you and I can say something and they'll absorb it, but only so much. When someone who's in the trenches with them says it, they believe it, because sometimes they think I'm superhuman. So they're like, well, yeah, but I can't run at your pace, right? But when one of my team leads says, if you do 1, 2, and 3 every day, this is how you get 11 million in production like I did last year, then they listen. So that was one of the things that we implemented that just completely changed everything, man. Like that was just it. And then the cool thing is I get to meet with them, and then they tell me, we got a hole here, we got a hole there, we need to fix this, we need to fix that. Because the thing is, when you're in leadership, you think you're doing a good job, but you don't necessarily always see your blind spot because you are so jaded in the mission. So sometimes you freaking miss your blind spot where they're going to say, hey, you got to love on that one a little bit more. We need to do another team event. We're missing this in the onboarding process. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the case is, we need to do another training on this. So that was a game changer for us, right? And then they're freaking bought in. They're bought into the entire program, to the entire process, right? So then the other thing I'll tell you that really changed for us in the last year, right? So this year we'll probably end this year 50 to 60 agents, easy, right? Right. And, so you're talking triple from last year. We hired a recruiter, and, our recruiter obviously coaches with Keith, because Keith is a beast at recruiting.
Yep.
you know. And just to kind of a side note on this for all of you that are listening to this, like, don't be fucking cheap, man. Like, spend the money, like, get in the rooms. The reason why I am where I am is because 4 or 5 years ago, I reached out to Chet Black. I got in the room with him. I started coaching with him. Then I got into as many rooms as I can with people like Chet to learn, to get better, connected with people in the group. I spent the money. And then, hey, my agents are going through the Nick McLean. They're going through the Bill Pipes. I got my recruiter coaching with Keith because, again, going back to that time, like, if we can compress time, if I can get somebody in front of an expert to teach somebody to shorten their learning curve, then people are like, oh, I want to scale. I want to scale. Let's scale. Let's scale. All right. You want to write scale checks? Well, then don't say you want to scale, because scale comes with writing checks, right? And the only way you scale fast is to shorten that curve of learning and that time curve, right? So we hired a recruiter. So that's really, really helped. Then we got, admin, staff like that. And then another big thing I think is bringing people in like you, Pike, Nick, Bill Pipes, and then just consistently having other voices, right? Because sometimes you're like the dad, you say clean your room, but then like the uncle comes over for the weekend and the freaking house is spotless because they hear it from a different voice. Yeah. So I think that's another thing that's been imperative is you got to have different voices in the locker room beside your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And here's what you're pointing out. I mean, we haven't spent a second really talking on the science. The science is important. How many leads do you have? How many times do you call the leads? How many this, how many this, how many that? None of that matters. Who you hire next and which are important we're talking about, but none of that matters if we're not developing the human beings, period. And it's not only developing those human beings, but it's that development of emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and sticking to standards. Let's go into that spot, because here's the one thing that people know about you is they're going to get the straight shot from you. But they know you've got a heart. We've known each other for 5 years, and I know that you care about people. I mean, your thing, listen, there's a lot of other things you could do besides running this team and continue to grow it and make you a heck of a lot more money. Yet you're growing this thing big time, which does do very well. We don't play the top line game here. There's no profit for ego. But talk about that. The ability to hold standards in your organization, because the real estate industry is littered with standards, yet when you get underneath it, no one's holding people to it, and have great retention too. How are you pulling that off?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to one of the biggest lessons I've learned from you, which is learn how to lead from love. And if people understand that you care about them and that you give a shit, then they'll let you hold them accountable. And it's like, bro, I'm not coming at you to be a dick. I'm coming at you because I care about you and I want the best for you and your family. And, we have to represent, we're number 2 in the nation, number 1 in the state. We have to represent what that looks like at all fucking times. Right. So the reality of it is it's like an athlete. You and I are good buddies with Heath Evans. There was a standard at the Patriots. That's why they won so many freaking Super Bowls. And there was such a standard at the Patriots that Brady goes to another organization that wins a Super Bowl. Obviously, he's superhuman, but you got to believe that there's a big part of that he learned playing in New England, right? So I think that everybody is like, the best analogy I can give you, you get what you tolerate. Do you know what I mean? So when you change the game and you stop tolerating it and you make people understand that you're coming from a standpoint of love and you're not leading from fear. And we implemented the accountability huddles that we learned from you, and really learning and understanding that all accountability is self-discovery. When you can put people in self-discovery and you make them understand that they're not doing what they're doing because of them and not because of us, right? We're facilitating the best environment that we can possibly facilitate. Do you know what I mean? And they're not holding the standard on themselves. And when you teach people that, a light eventually will go off.
Really, really good. Let's expand now, because I think so many people, and we talk about the abundance thing. I mean, I just shot a video that you're going to use for your coaching company, and here we are. Oh my gosh, you're competitors? No, we're not. We're partners. We're partners in everything we do. It's not a partner financially, it's a partnership in seeing each other win. And that's a big piece many people in the real estate industry don't get. I won't even go further, because there's a couple things to look at in growth beyond where these team leaders are. And it's coaching and training outside of our industry. You and Ryan shared the stage. Ryan Stimman, our brother, shared the stage at one of my events. And then you said, something, I'm going to go over here and get engaged here at a coaching level and learn and grow from that. That's totally outside the real estate industry. Talk to people about the importance of being in coaching environments, masterminds outside of real estate, and share with them. And it's not bragging. Share with them straight up what's happened for you because you've listed all these coaching environments you're in right now, but then there's this whole other space you're in. The importance of getting outside of our industry.
Yeah, I mean, so the crazy thing is that until I got in your room, no one ever talks about leadership or self-development or getting better. It was all just tactical shit around real estate. And we just weren't taught about being a good human being and fostering that in other people. And I think that's why so many people get stuck, because their shit is all fucked up internally. And none of us are born. You're not born and you know how to be a leader. You have to be educated, and you consistently have to learn. And we're human beings. We're flawed. We're going to make mistakes. So I think that it was just one of those things where it was like, if I can consistently always put me in the environment to just push myself to be better and be around people who want to push themselves to be better. And there's always levels, right? There's always a different level. I mean, every single time, every year, right? You look at who's in the group, in the Chet Black group, right? And you're like, shit, man, another 1,000 transactions or another 500, whatever it is, we all push each other to be better. So I think it's one of those things of like, if I can consistently put myself in a room where everybody wants to push you to get better, how can you not get better, dude? Like, and the reality of it is, if you go, nothing against the real estate space, but if you go sit in rooms where all the things that people are talking about are buyers, sellers, tactical things around that, which there's nothing wrong with that. You need that to run a business. But if you're not focusing inward of how you can be a better leader and a better human being, then you're going to like just hit a wall eventually. So for me, it's one of those things where again, it goes back to leadership. If I can put myself in a situation where everybody's just making me be a better leader, I'm going to always win at anything I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap on this one, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time with me here on a Saturday morning, brother. And so do all the other folks. We're not going into, we're in it. It's great. Inflation was announced yesterday, and interest rates are going to get announced on Wednesday. All kinds of news and noise, as I call it. And first of all, let's go. Where is your group going to be at the end of the year, regardless of what happens in the marketplace, and how come?
40-50% up. That's probably where I see us. That's where we're trending right now.
So you're up 40-50%.
Yeah.
Good. And how come?
Couple things. We made a serious commitment this year to training, keeping our agents the most educated and ahead of the curve. And we made a commitment this year to recruit, and recruit heavy. So, and the other thing, I made a commitment December of last year to put out an obnoxious amount of content.
Yep.
Obnoxious, right? So we're going to be everywhere all the freaking time in people's face. You're going to do business with us or you're not. But here's the thing, more people are going to do business with us than not. And I'm just going to keep hammering it because majority of people are going to pull back and they're going to be scared and they're not going to put content out and they're going to go, it's going to be like COVID again. They're going to go in hiding, and we're going to stand up and say, we're here, call us, we'll help you. So, I mean, look, this shit is not difficult. Be a good leader, recruit, market the hell out of what you do. You'll dominate. Like, really, that's it.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you, man. Crystal clear, super simple and consistent, man. Where can people find you? Where are the best places, Brandon, for people to look you up and find you and all the stuff you got going on?
Facebook, send me a message on Messenger or Instagram. Just be Brittingham on Instagram, Brandon Brittingham on Facebook. Just send me a message on Messenger. That's the easiest way to get a response from me.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother. Be well, man.
Thanks, man.